Again, I'll let you start the discussion.
All right, welcome everyone to today's webinar. We're going to give folks just a minute to enter the room and then we'll get started. All right, good afternoon. Welcome to today's Link Senior webinar. Today we are providing one free NAB, NCAP, NCCDP, NZSRDT, and NCTRC CEU credit. To be eligible for these CEU credits today, you do need to remain on this webinar for the full hour. At the end of the webinar, I will provide the required post-webinar CEU survey evaluation link in the webinar room chat box. And I will also send this survey link by email this afternoon. Please be sure to check your email spam folder. This survey must be completed by midnight Eastern time this Thursday if you want the CEU credit. If you have any questions about our CEU process, please do read our FAQ page, which I have just pasted in the webinar chat box. Remember that your CEU certificates will be issued by email before the end of the day on Friday, May 21st. Again, please be sure to check your spam folder that day. And with that, I will hand it over to Charles de Villemorne, CEO and co-founder of Link Senior. Charles?
Thank you very much, Megan. As Megan said, welcome everyone. Good afternoon, good morning. Good morning to you, David, on the West Coast, and to you, Melissa, as well, on the non-Eastern time zone. I'm very excited for today's presentation as part of our Activity Strong platform, our Activity Strong webinar, where we hope and to acknowledge the fantastic work of activity and life enrichment directors, but also empower and educate everyone. And so today's presentation is going to be something I'm very personally passionate about, which is dementia care, but also placing this in today's context, which is seizing this incredible opportunity coming out of this pandemic of how we can create a contemporary activity-rich dementia care program. So with that, we're joined by three amazing individuals, and I'm so excited just to see the three of you on Zoom today. But we have Diane Byrne from Juniper Communities, Melissa Dillon from Merrill Gardens, and David Troxel, which, David, I don't know if you know this, but I've been a fan of yours even before I started Link Senior, which is now 13 to 14 years. So just having you here. It's welcome to everyone. So as some of you are returning participants of our webinar, my name is Charles de Villemorne. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Link Senior. At Link Senior, we believe that all people are cool and that our industry, the senior living industry, is activity strong. So welcome everyone. Link Senior is a resident engagement platform for senior living. So we serve independent living, assisted living, memory care, and nursing homes. And we're very proud of our work where essentially we are enabling professionals like you to augment what you're trying to do. So essentially resident engagement. And the way we do it is we provide technology, education, and as the co-founder of Link Senior, I'm particularly proud of our ability to help you increase quantity and quality of the human touch. When I say that we're proud of our work, it's also because we are an evidence-based platform. Our work has been published in a peer-reviewed journal, and here are some of the amazing outcomes. This webinar, where you were invited and you join us today, is actually part of a series that we started 3 years ago, where we heard from many professionals like you how much sometimes it was difficult to have access to quality education. And obviously the pandemic, this has worsened this. So we last year launched Activity Strong and doubled down on our webinar opportunities. And as you can see, we've had amazing speakers. This is also a way for us to also invite you, the audience, to consider sending us topic or speaker suggestions. And I'm particularly excited, as I mentioned, to introduce now David Troxel. So David Troxel lives in Sacramento, and he is the co-creator of the Best Friends approach to dementia care. David, I'm going to unshare my screen so you can share yours, and I'll let you take it from here. Thanks, everyone.
Well, thank you very much, Charles. And let me just say, first of all, greetings from California. And what a wonderful way to kind of start the week off, even though it's Tuesday, but with my favorite people in the world, all the activities, wellness, engagement team members. Just the other day, I was talking to someone who said, David, dementia care is the one place that I want to work. And we know that so many of you have a great heart and commitment and love of our family members with dementia. It's great to be with you, Melissa and Diane. I have to do a shout out to Charles for his invitation. Part of my own philosophy in the Best Friends approach is knowing a lot about each other. So early on, I mentioned to Charles that my father was in the Air Force. My mother was Canadian. My father was assigned to Paris, France, and I was born in Paris. So Charles and I are both Parisians. We both have something in common, even though I left when I was about 6 months old. And, I can just imagine if Charles or I ever ended up in memory care one day, well, what would we want someone to know about us? Maybe we'd ask Charles to teach us French, or be sure, forgive me for being stereotypical, Charles, giving him his croissant every morning, or at least some bread and jam like the French people love. I'd probably want someone to show me pictures of Paris, because my mother was very fond of the Eiffel Tower and the Mona Lisa and the Louvre Museum. These are all things, by the way, you can do, of course, with Charles's wonderful platform. But these little bits and moments of engagement are so important. I'll be talking in a moment more formally, but I just want to say thank you to all of you on this webinar for the incredible work you've done. I think during this last year, in so many ways, our industry has been framed as the medical model versus the social model. And as you'll kind of get a sense from my comments, I think the pandemic has shown our work is even more important and fighting loneliness and isolation. So Melissa and Diane, I'm looking forward to hearing your viewpoint, but I'll at least set the stage with my introductory slides and look forward to having some robust conversation as well. So here we go. All right. So again, just to complete my bio ever so slightly, basically I've worked in this field since 1986 from the University of Kentucky. I think most notably, I've been writing with my dear friend for 30 years, Virginia Bell, who's still going strong at 98, by the way, and developed the Best Friends approach. But also, I think very impactfully, I've been a family member. When I started out in this field, I really knew nobody with Alzheimer's disease. But since then, my own beloved mother passed away, along with many other friends and families. So we know that dementia hits about 1 out of every 3 American families. And certainly that is something we have to be aware of and think about. So with that, let me advance my slides and mention that I'll be kind of introducing the webinar, which I think I've already accomplished. I'm going to just set the stage with some remarks and reflections about where we've been. I'll look forward to our wonderful other presenters, Melissa and Diane, sharing 5-10 minutes maybe at least about your own programming, your own philosophy, how you've come through this. And then we'll have some, I'm sure with this audience, some very robust conversation and questions. So let me just kind of set the stage again by sharing with you that I was very struck by a magazine that came out about 2 months ago. It's a weekly newspaper called Byrne's Magazine. It's a financial newspaper, but they had a front page story about Alzheimer's disease. And they said Alzheimer's and other dementia represent the other pandemic. And I think that's very powerful to think about. We know that Alzheimer's disease is one of the top 10 diseases in the US, the only one of the top 10 where we don't really have an effective treatment, or we have some ideas about prevention, but nothing completely definitive. And we know the numbers are growing rapidly. We've struggled in terms of research. And in fact, it's just, I have to be candid, I think a bit of a debacle really, that it's been now almost 20 years since we've had a new FDA approved medication. We've had failure after failure, even though there's tremendous progress. My tip of the hat for people with the Alzheimer's Association, we've seen a tremendous growth in funding, but nevertheless, we don't really have many medical tools that are significant today than we had 30 years ago when I started. And I'm going to put it out there that in many ways, the current medicines are so modest in scope. We know a lot about it. We fought stigma, but in many ways, we don't even have that many tools today that Dr. Alzheimer might have had 100 years ago. So we have a lot of work to do. Lacking that, The treatment for dementia in so many ways is socialization and engagement and life-affirming relationship-centered care. And in this webinar, we will advocate for continued innovation and activities and give the person with dementia this sense of meaning and purpose. Again, all of you, I think, as Tom Kitwood, the famous researcher, once said, are physicians of the human spirit. And I think it's so powerful as we think about this. My dear friend Virginia and I, here's Virginia about 8-9 years ago at a conference in Chicago. Virginia often has written about Alzheimer's disease, the co-author again of my best friend's books with me. And she says in many ways, you know, people with Alzheimer's disease and dementia are just like the rest of us. They have all the same needs, feelings, and emotions. When my mother had Alzheimer's disease, one thing that I learned from her is that she didn't want to do the same old every day. She would sometimes say it's a little boring around here. And I noticed that when the building she lived in, she was in memory care for 3 years, a wonderful community. I noticed that when they tried different things, it sparked her curiosity. Not necessarily a word we often use with dementia, but she was curious about new things. She liked to have experiences that were novel, a novel of the experience. And I think Virginia says it very well. We all have a need to be needed. Many of the programs and ideas offered by Link Senior and the speakers today are evidence-based, as Charles said, or at least evidence-influenced. And that's, I think, been one very supportive and encouraging trend in our industry. Those of us who work in activities and wellness, we now know that there's a strong evidence base about the power of music and song lyrics, that they live in a different part of the brain than words and language. Research being done on the arts and dementia and about the importance of socialization. I'm sure some of you have seen these studies, but there's actually studies out there that people who have friends, people who are socially engaged, who sing in the church choir maybe before the pandemic, that people who are social may get Alzheimer's disease later in life than those of us who maybe are the loners. And if you have Alzheimer's disease or one of the other dementias, socialization might even slow it down. I like to say in my books and articles, the brain loves company. And you're welcome to swipe that phrase as you talk to your executive director and ask for a bigger research or bigger activities budget, or if you want to really make the case that this is in so many ways, as I said earlier, the treatment for Alzheimer's disease and dementia. So with that kind of brief introduction, and again, my reflection that I think coming out of the pandemic, activities and engagement are going to be so important. I believe also that families, when they're looking for programs, are going to be looking to see who has an activity program with creativity, with inviting language, something that goes beyond the classic bingo and trivia and happy hour. And our next two speakers, I'm sure, will be delighted to tell you a bit more about themselves and about their own interests as well. So Charles, I think I can just toss it to Melissa. Do I need to do anything else? I think Melissa, jump on in and I'll work your slides for you if you'd like. So let me actually introduce you, Melissa, sorry. Melissa has over a decade of experience in senior living as a care coordinator, executive director, and company director for memory care. Her passion is positively affecting lives through educating others in evidence-based practices for people living with dementia. She again is the director of Garden House for Merrill Garden Senior Living. I won't go on, Melissa, to brag about you too much more, but it's great that you have a master's degree in gerontology and other certifications. You live in Scottsdale, and Melissa, I'll toss it to you now to enjoy speaking with about your ideas.
Well, thank you, David. I so appreciate it. And I am so happy to be here with you all. It truly is my pleasure. So please allow me the opportunity to talk maybe just a little bit about what it is to have a loving memory care. So I am the director of Garden House at Merrill Gardens. It is my opportunity to be with teams and understand what is memory care, what can memory care look like. And what we call that at Merrill Gardens is a program called Inspire Connection. So I wanted to share you maybe some of the ideas that we have within this program itself. So Inspire Connection is our ambition at Merrill Gardens to really love people that are living with dementia. It's our intention to focus on the people, the place, and the purpose. First, we focus on people, being truly inspired to connect to people with challenges with memory and critical thinking. We're driven to understand who those folks continue to be, because we know mothers will always be mothers and teachers will always be teachers. So if you understand who is this person in their personhood, how would they describe themselves? And what are those things within their personalities that they want to continue to sit and live in? Well, by golly, if I know that about someone, then maybe I can connect with them in a really meaningful way. We agree whatever is good for that person is good for that person. And we need to celebrate this. Understanding that caring for people living with dementia is going to be a different experience because, oh my gosh, people are very different as we have different variations and even different variations of the challenges with dementia that there are along this journey with. Well, if we understand what's happening and connect to that person, then maybe we can have a kind experience with each other. Second, we focus on the place. I want everyone, please, to join me on this small idea that we use this word home-like in senior living. This is a home-like environment. But if we really drill down and think about it, it's not home-like at all. It's the person's house. It's where these residents do live all of the time. And so what if we pursue those elements that are truly comforting to people in their houses and then implement that in memory care? Memory care shouldn't only be home-like, it should have all the creature comforts of home. And then lastly, we focus on the purpose. We've got really great people in a really great place. It'd be really boring if we were all just staring at each other. So what if we were to understand what is that one thing that makes that person's heart sing? And then we sing with them as consistently as we can. By understanding someone and knowing what would be a really good day for you, or what would be the best day for you, then maybe I can be that kind helper that implements it. If I know Shirley, who I love very much, would have a wonderful day going to the beach every day, what are the elements that she enjoys about the beach that I can attribute to her home? So it's only when we connect these three things, the people, the place, and the purpose, I believe that we create a truly loving memory care. And yeah, I say that word loving on purpose. I think we use these softer synonyms more often. We say we're going to care for the residents or we're going to keep the residents safe. But truly at the core of those statements is this idea of I'm going to be with your loved one the way that I would be with my loved one. And so maybe thinking about how can I say, I'm going to love this person. And from love comes these kind moments of safety and opportunity. Let's head on over to the next slide, David. So the second piece that I want to talk about is just a program in general. In senior living, you know, we use this word program many different ways. And so I just want to be really clear about the way that I want to use it today. Programming is engagement. It absolutely is. But I also believe it is everything that happens under the roof of a memory care. So it's not just engagement, it's so much more. Now, don't get me wrong, engagement is paramount to creating a loving memory care environment. Caring for a person should not only encompass their physical needs, but also their emotional needs and their social needs. All these things are closely tied together. So engagement is a very important piece. But maybe I want to talk about this in a little different way than we want to have fun with each other. And instead say, I believe that engagement is a necessary safety practice in memory care. We can all agree, regardless of our backgrounds or our positions, that a person living with dementia deserves the support of supervision. This can easily be accomplished by providing opportunities for engagement in a common area where that person can have assistance the way that they need it to accomplish the things they like to do, and a supervision at the same time. We need to create a rhythm within the day. Have you ever met that resident in memory care that is really focused on lunch? When is lunch? Have we had lunch yet? Is lunch at noon today as well? And maybe it's because, well, if you talk to them a little bit about their unmet need and you ask, well, are you hungry? They say no. I want to make sure I know when lunch is. This is about rhythm, and this is about structure and expectation. The person may not know what the heck is coming next, And so what if we were to create a rhythm within engagement programs that is just as predictable and kind and appropriate as lunch? This is what we do next. I want to invite the residents to, we have a plan. This is what we will be doing next to each other. It's your choice to come and participate with me, but maybe it can take away some of that anxiety and provide some safety to folks about what the heck is happening around here. Without that safety element, I believe that we are fostering an environment that's just for falling and fighting, which is not what our lives should be about. It should be about getting that moment that makes my heart sing and being able to sing as often as I need to. So moving on from just thinking it of, a program is everything we do, engagement is very important, but there are these other items that are here on this list that I believe we have some important questions we need to ask ourselves as the professionals that love people living with dementia. So what we want to strive to do is really ask questions about dining, living environment, about team member and dementia-specific education in our trainings. How do we do family support? So to strive for this excellent program, let's think about the whole resident experience. I don't think that it would be possible in a quick webinar to say, this is the perfect dining, because it's just not possible. But maybe we can all ask the same questions of each other. What are our practices in dining that support a person living with dementia? What do we do? And what does the individual experience look like for someone when they are dining? Is this like going to your normal cafe or restaurant, something that's very normal? Or is this like going to a dining hall in an elementary school or at a hospital? What is the experience for the individual that does deserve the support of a person to get through their meal? One-on-one companionship. Are we asking them to sit alone and watch other residents eat that can do so independently and wait until hands are ready to be there with them? Or are we truly looking at, this is what your experience is, and I want to make it kind for you? Anything that we can do that is normal, that is what is probably going to feel the best for that person. And so we start asking ourselves these questions. What are our practices and how kind is it? And we can move it into most of our environments. So let's take a look at the living environment. When you're standing in the living room, in the dining room, in the residence room, ask yourself, does this look like a place where an adult lives? Or does this look like an elementary school? Maybe internalizing yourself, what are the creature comforts you have in your own house that make it feel warm and inviting? I love throw pillows and fuzzy blankets and pictures of my family, of my dogs. How can I have that for the residents so that they can feel that as well? One thing I don't have in my house is a large bulletin board, which I decorate each day, that says this is the weather and this is the time, and really refocusing and recentering me. I do have a calendar that tells me and reminds me to go to the dentist. So how can we get to these normal places to make a loving memory care? We can ask ourselves these things about our dementia education. Do we have relatable and actionable education for each other as a team? Have you gone through a dementia education class and you walked away saying, I know about flex and tangles? And then how did that help you when you were relating to Mary when she was having a hard time hopping in the shower? Or do we have open discussions about, I wonder, what is Mary's unmet need and why is she having a hard time hopping in the shower? Because I bet if we figure it out, then we can help her in a different way. Ask ourselves questions like, how do we support the family members of our residents? Has anyone had that conversation, maybe in corners with each other, of, oh my gosh, Susie's daughter just does not get it? And maybe can we switch that feeling to, oh, she doesn't get it. I am the professional here and I would love to help her understand, because it is probably true that this is Susie's daughter's first rodeo, loving someone with dementia. And us as professionals, this is not our first rodeo. We have met other folks that are challenged with these things and we have continued to love them regardlessly. How can we give that to Susie's daughter? So the wonderful thing about memory care and about just loving people with dementia is that there is no one size fits all answer. I like to say there's a lot of theories out there. Everything is right and everything is wrong. So how can we take a look at just becoming dementia nerds with each other, maybe understanding the different elements that could be implemented within a memory care, and then saying what is good for this one person, because I love them. They are in the autumn years of their life, and I have an opportunity to hold hands with them. And I just can't think of anything better to do with my life. So those are my initial thoughts, David. So thank you for the opportunity to share it with everybody.
Well, thank you very much, Melissa, for your great energy. And I have a couple of thoughts just based on your initial remarks. Number one is I love the idea that you said it's home, not home-like. I think that's terrific. I smile when you were talking about people maintaining their identity, because I was actually in memory care last year, right before the pandemic hit. And I remember meeting a woman who the life story information said she's a nurse. And I said something to her like, I understand you're a retired nurse. And she sort of playfully slapped my hand and said, once a nurse, always a nurse. So you see, I got corrected in memory care. My other sort of thought about what you were sharing is that I've always loved this phrase about the goal we have is to create a therapeutic environment. And there's a million definitions of that if you Google it, but I like the simple definition that a therapeutic environment is an environment that is healing. And I can see that many of your ambitions would really create that community of friendship and connection and care. So now let's invite Diane, who's Vice President Training, Program Development, and Regional Operations for Juniper Communities. Diane has over 40 years experience with the senior living industry with roles and responsibilities at the national level, corporate-wide development of innovative, comprehensive programs for various stakeholders. And I won't, Diane, share your extensive background, but I know you've worked for large corporations, smaller corporations. I think it's so interesting that you're responsible for the conceptualization, design, development of Juniper's 9 signature programs, including their Respect program that fosters associate welfare, spirit through recognition and empowerment-centered celebrations and trainings, your Connections program, Alive in All Seasons, encouraging activity, engagement, engaged minds, fulfilled spirits. I love the language of what you're doing. I think it's so important to look at our language and kind of create some aspirations for all of us as we go forward. So Diane, the floor is yours now, and I welcome your great energy and knowledge and wisdom.
Thank you so much, David. And it's a pleasure being with you and Melissa today. And, you know, I have been in the field for 40 years and I wouldn't have changed any one day of it. It has been an absolute honor. Currently, I work with Juniper Communities. I've been there for over 20 plus years. It's been an honor. We own and operate 27 senior living communities in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Colorado, and Texas. And we do indeed have a deeply rooted mission to be the people, places, and programs that nurture the spirit of life in each individual we touch. And we have strong signature programs that really operationalize our culture. Our Catalyst program is an integrated lifestyle management program that includes our Connect for Life program, a care model that enables our residents to get the services that they need with primary care practitioners, therapy, and pharmacy. Our Connections with Alive in All Seasons program, which incorporates branded, seasonal-based themed experiences and activities designed to keep body, mind, and spirit vibrant. We have a very comprehensive Juniper University that has a vast library of dementia-capable content, and our Wellspring memory care, which is a state-of-the-art award-winning program utilizing a small house model. Next slide, David. I think that to create, when I think about the concept of creating and sustaining an innovative and contemporary and activity-rich dementia care program, it is really imperative that we utilize an approach that is both multifaceted as well as data-driven. And to achieve that, there are 4 key components to really keep in mind. The first component is really to analyze the unique individual. We are all individuals and we all have a separate and specific life story. And the only way to know a unique individual, it's the only way we can really foster that true person-centered care and approach. We use a multitude of assessments that include the St. Louis University mental status exam, the BCAT, the Brief Cognitive Assessment Tool, Global Deterioration Scale, the Cornell Depression Scale, a leisure interest profile, and the resident life story as well. And then the second component is really to then take that individual information from the individual themselves and then begin to analyze the entire resident population. Knowing the unique community is the only way that we can truly strategically plan for quality dementia program. Our communities come in all different shapes and sizes. Certainly our resident population in South Central Pennsylvania, in the heart of Amish country, is vastly different than our resident population in downtown Denver. So we utilize a demographic analysis tool that provides a comprehensive analysis in graph form of the entire resident population with data points related to the residents' life history and religion, ethnic origin, occupation, and leisure interests by domains. We also utilize a program staging tool to determine natural groupings of our residents related to their level of cognitive function, so that they're able, we're able to really adapt group size and interventions and approaches accordingly. The third component is to plan and execute excellently the program. And when you're executing excellently, you really need to keep a number of highlighted areas in mind, some of which include focusing on all domains of wellness. Move beyond what David had mentioned, the 3 B's of bowling, bingo, and birthday parties, and ensure that you include a vocational, emotional, physical, spiritual, intellectual, social, and environmental experiences to ensure diversity of program. Collaborate with a top-notch therapy provider who has an awesome dementia capable program. Our therapy provider has a wonderful evidence-based program that utilizes the Global Deterioration Scale and the work of Teepa Snow. And so it works in alignment with our mission and values as well. To collaborate with a premier hospice provider who provides multiple complementary therapies such as Reiki and yoga, Tai Chi, pet therapy, and mindfulness. Focus on fitness. Remember the old adage, if you rest, you rust. So ensure that fitness programs are truly therapeutic, emphasizing balance and strength and endurance and aerobics and fall management. Utilize non-pharmacological approaches to behaviors and depression. Create individualized activity boxes as toolkits to intervene. Provide multiple opportunities to experience the arts and culture. Creative expression allows individuals with dementia to reach beyond their disease and reconnect in deep and meaningful ways. Provide music therapy, art without boundaries, memories in the making, and drama programs. Focus on multisensorial experiences like horticulture therapy, drumming, life skills, sensory, and reminiscing programs. Foster relationships and engagement between residents and associates. The best friends approach created by David Troxel, our fearless moderator for today, and Virginia Bell is just a wonderful example of this. Juniper has been embracing and, more importantly, sustaining this program since 2007, David. We also have a refresh program, body, mind, and wellness program for our residents, associates, and family members to join together in mindfulness. Differentiate your dining. Just recently, Juniper has implemented the Mind Diet, which is the Mediterranean dash intervention, and also provide adapted and restorative programs to foster continued independence in dining.
Max, raison.
Build partnerships and relationships between residents and the greater community, and create volunteer experiences for the residents and the greater community. Participate in experiences like making dog biscuits and blankets for the animal shelter, and move beyond Christmas caroling scouts and look for intergenerational programs that include STEM programs, Montessori school programs, and local home schools and colleges. And utilize technology strategically. Technology is a great way to augment and extend your programming. It has been a godsend during our COVID times, and I'll give a plug for our crowdsourced programming platform, Virtual Connections, at www.slvirtual.com, as well as Linked Senior, our pals who have a robust programming platform that provides the ability to analyze resident participation and engagement, which is a nice segue to the fourth step, which is really to analyze your program. Use key performance indicators, KPIs, in the analysis and evaluation of your program that include hospitalization, rehospitalization, therapy utilization, psychotropic drug usage, treatment of depression, falls, restorative and adaptive dining, and resident and family satisfaction. In addition to KPIs, also evaluate attendance, participation, and engagement to determine the efficacy of programming. Because science plus art equals magic in memory care, and it really does indeed take a village to create a robust and meaningful program for all residents.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your very ambitious programming. You know, one reflection I have is that I love the fact that your program is connected to evidence-based practices, that you're trying different things. I love the idea too that you don't have a one-size-all-fit program from Denver to the Amish country. Very, very interesting. You know, one thing just to comment on in general, because sometimes I've had people say, well, David, I love your ideas, but, you know, I don't know if that will work, or what if they don't like it? And, you know, one of my senses about people with dementia is that we are forgiven for those occasional failures. There's a very early book in the field of activities by a lovely person, Carmel Sheridan, called Failure-Free Activities. Great book, but I never quite liked the title because, you know, what's wrong with a little failure? If you fail occasionally, it means you're being ambitious. And of course, our residents really enjoy trying new things, and give it a shot. You'll be surprised. People with dementia, you know, sometimes they are more open to new experiences, I think, than people in independent living. Because after all, you could argue that a person with dementia, they don't remember that they don't do that. So maybe you have a resident who loved the opera and now she's enjoying country western line dancing. Maybe she never would have done that in the early years, but now with dementia, she's more in the moment. So well done. And we'll move forward now to talk a bit more about some of our panelists' ideas and some specific questions and comments. I have a few questions for our panelists, but I want to remind you to please put any questions you have in the Q&A box, and we'll do our best as a group to answer those. We've already had a couple of good questions I've taken note of. So, you know, I think we've all mentioned that one of the tremendous losses during the pandemic is the sense of loneliness and isolation, social isolation. In fact, the APA says may be a greater threat to healthy aging and even things like obesity. So one question I have for our panelists, and maybe Melissa, you can kick us off with this, is, you know, in many ways, COVID has created spikes in isolation and loneliness. We know the need for socialization is so important. As we open up and rebuild our engagement programs, what are your best activity ideas for creating a sense of community and togetherness in a memory care neighborhood? I guess particularly coming out of COVID, where should someone start, perhaps if they don't have the level of sophistication or the resources that your program has?
Great question, David. And I think I want to recenter for just a moment in thinking in March of 2020 at Merrill Gardens, and maybe at a community like yours, we had these ideas that we were just going to have the residents in the rooms and they were all just going to stay there. We were going to bring things to them. And by golly, well, that didn't work. Didn't. So maybe we've altered a bit what we have done, and it's just giving permission to ourselves. It is okay. Let's be with people. This doesn't have to be a sophisticated idea. It's just about people being with people. I've seen moments where we were playing a Jenga game, and I don't know if Jenga is the best thing that ever happened in life of all time, but that engagement leader made it feel that way by laughing and encouraging others to join her. And so maybe sometimes it's not even specifically about that content, but it's about the feeling. If we're playing a game and the rules don't make any sense, it doesn't really matter if we are having a good time with each other. But a few suggestions that I was thinking of in my mind was maybe some of those opportunities where we have collaboration through different people with different abilities. So what if we were to write a play? There might be some residents that would be good at coming up with the plot of the play. There might be other folks that might be good at creating costumes or sets or invitations. And to be honest with you, if we attempted to have this play, it's probably not going to go as planned. No one's going to remember their lines, and it won't matter because we are going to have a good time with each other. Take this idea of something that you might normally do with your friends and then apply it in other elements. What if we were to just simply throw a dinner party and maybe the guests are just us, but different folks may be better at different pieces of throwing a party with each other. So just inviting people in, doing things like sharing biographies. I'll just tell one more story and pass it to Diane. A moment that I loved about Link Senior is we love a woman in one of our Florida communities who worked at Disney World her whole career. It is her life. She has so many rich stories. So we reached out to Link Senior and said, Disney World content, please. They were able to create us some slideshows and some trivias. And this resident was able to give a little class about Disney World, the things she knows the best, with some adaptive elements that helped her through the conversation. So basically, I think we should just have fun for fun's sake, no matter what it looks like.
Great, Melissa. And, you know, I've had some fun too, even taking an ordinary activity and just giving it a fancier title. Instead of just having movie night, You could have maybe a night at the opera, or, I have tickets for tonight's performance. May I give you a couple of tickets and please join me at 7 o'clock, just kind of adding that sense of specialness. Diane, what are your thoughts? And by the way, if you were living in memory care, we could have a lot of fun with that turquoise seemingly necklace you're wearing. We could talk about, the color blue, your favorite color. I could ask you if I could touch it. We could look at the stones. We could reminisce about your time in New Mexico. So I always love memory care people because they always have their props with them.
Exactly. I think when I think about engagement, and particularly coming out of post-COVID, I really think that joining together in external community-based partnerships and intergenerational experiences really can have a profound positive impact on fostering that connectedness and engagement, investigating ways to celebrate local and regional and cultural events that span generational interests and provide a purpose and relevancy for all who participate. It's coming towards summertime, and I was thinking that the longest day fundraiser with the Alzheimer's Association is a perfect example of this, that everybody can join together, raise money for a magnificent cause, and the like. Food drives for the local food bank, and an outdoor concert with a local musician who has been off of work for many months, cooking demonstrations of local cuisine by well-known chefs who have also been out of work, all kind of came to mind as opportunities for that re-engagement and reinvigoration of connectedness between internal and external community.
Very good, very good. I'll go back to our presentation here and go to our second question. Well, Charles is very kind to put a quote from me in this slide that often, along with my colleague Virginia Bell, particularly as we wrote our 2 books on activities programming, we wrote that it takes only one person with a dream to make life easier for persons with dementia to feel more a part of the community. In other words, you. As I said, you are a very, very essential part of our caregiving staff and team, and your work is so important. So here's my next question to our distinguished panel. I love teaching classes and talking about interesting things in memory care. Even if the resident soon forgets what you've discussed, in the moment they enjoy the experience of learning. Have you done much around innovative tools to foster discussion, learning? Do you think that it's helpful to teach classes on the Golden Gate Bridge, the pyramids of Egypt, French cuisine, interesting topics? How do you build in adult learning into your programming? Diane, do you want to kick us off this time?
Sure. The forging of partnerships with local colleges, art galleries, museums, historical societies, speakers bureaus, our care partners such as hospice, home health, they have all served us extremely well in the planning and execution of intellectual experiences for the residents. I think the use of various adult learning modalities assist individuals living with dementia in connecting and engaging with a topic. I have a couple of fond memories, one of which I took this big, giant, enormous tree branch and dragged it into a community, a program area, to talk about autumnal splendor with residents. I also have another fond memory of running. I had all these men in an adult daycare, and they were all businessmen, and I would have morning board meetings with them so that they could have this intellectual experience. I think props and costumes also play a really important role in sparking interest and discussion, and historical actors and reenactors create a buzz.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Melissa, what are your thoughts?
I just appreciate the question in general because it leads itself to an answer. It's really just about our attitude that we have with each other, and not saying, well, this person has memory impairment, they can't learn something, but rather they're great at being present. And so what if we, being present with each other, are able to go into some educational pieces? There's some back to the basics ideas of just using those simple discussion cards where there's a picture on the front and there's some questions on the back. It might be learning about that picture, but it might be discussing our experiences with that picture, because we can learn from each other. And using those simple tools like YouTube, that funny cat video that you really liked over the weekend, why can't we share that with the residents? And then take it into a further discussion of, do cats do this, and what type of cat is this? And that can go as high level as you would like for it to be. There is a world of resources on YouTube, but we got to make sure that it's not just we're watching it and moving on. It's a tool for us that we watch it, and that fosters the discussion for learning. Just center in with yourself that an attitude of, we can do this, it'll be fun. And if it doesn't work out, just like you said, at least we tried with our curiosity.
I love that idea. And, you know, I think in memory care, it's the journey, not the destination when it comes to activities. I remember one time doing a word puzzle and the answer was meatloaf. And instead of going to the next word, we spent 20 minutes talking about meatloaf recipes and, you know, what's the secret to good meatloaf. And that's kind of the knack of good memory care. Let me move us along to, because I know we want to make sure we have some time for the public Q&A here. Resident engagement is collaborating with elders so they live each day with purpose. Now, if I could ask maybe each of you just to take 1 minute and tell us a bit about any innovations you employ about the use of music, because we know that music and song lyrics live in a different part of the brain than words and language, and music evokes so much emotion and meaning for people with dementia. So maybe just very brief answers so we can jump into some Q&A from our wonderful audience.
Sure.
Diane, do you want to kick us off? Sorry.
Oh, sure. Well, first and foremost, music and memory is a mandatory must. And so that certainly is one thing that comes to mind. I think the movement of just shifting musical experiences from passive to active. So ukulele lessons and kazoo bands and drum circles as well. And just one last plug, Juniper's International Council on Active Aging's award-winning Broadway senior program has provided opportunities for our residents to participate in staged productions while singing well-loved and remembered Broadway show tunes. These extravaganzas were a real hit.
Awesome. Melissa, a few words on music.
Yep. Again, I think it's about checking our attitude. I've read some new research that is talking about we do connect to a certain type of music and a certain lovely time within our lives, but it is wonderful for your brain to reach outside of what you are accustomed to. Not every single person in our communities will love Frank Sinatra. It's going to change. First off, sometimes we turn that on and they'll say, that's my mom's music, right? But why do we have to put ourselves into this bucket of we are just going to Elvis? There is no reason why we can't listen to new music and old music and try things that may not even be in our comfort zone. Sometimes when I'm thinking about, maybe we shouldn't have watched that Beyonce video. Well, I'm going to change my mind about that right now. Why not? Let's watch the Beyonce video and have a discussion about it. It's going to light up a different part of your brain and exercise it in a great way. Let's bring in different cultures of music and just say that there are no rules here. Let's have fun.
Beautiful. So I'm now going to just try to cover a few Q&As. We're really short on time, so you'll have to give us like a 30-second answer. I'll tackle the first one. Someone said my budget got cut. And, you know, I got in trouble one time when I suggested at a public talk that to me, a good budget is like $100 per resident per month, you know, and I had gasped. And they never hired me, by the way. But anyway, but real quick, one thought I do have for you, because we know there's never enough money. I'd rather, you know, the dollar store is great, But if you have some programming ideas, don't hesitate to ask families for things. Now, if you're a for-profit company, a family's not going to offer, toilet paper and cleaning supplies. But if you want to do an English tea party, families might donate grandmother's little bone china teacups. If you want to do a collage project, they might donate magazines, fabric buttons. We all have white elephants in our home. Families are delighted to support an ambitious programming idea. If you want to do dog biscuits, the mason jars, that is one way to extend your program. Another question that came in, Diane or Melissa, whoever wants to tackle this, Alzheimer's, how do you work with various stages of dementia, with a few words about later stage activities? Melissa, would you maybe tackle that one?
I'd love to. So let's just think about the person's personal experience, no matter where they are in their stage of dementia. Whatever is good for them is good for them. So oftentimes when we talk about late stage connection and engagement, we just throw out this word of sensory. Ask yourself, what does that mean? When you offer a sensory program, what are the actual elements that are happening? So let's have a beach party and think about all 5 senses that you experienced while you were at the beach. Let's touch water and sand and seaweed. Let's smell salt and pina coladas. Let's hear birds chirping in our ears. So it may feel simplistic to us, because we have these sensory experiences all of the time that aren't as difficult for us. But a person in later stage dementia, if you were just to offer these little things that make sense around a normal day, it will probably be delightful for them.
Terrific. Diane, quick question from one of our webinar participants. How do you make technology a bit more accessible? Many of the staff and even residents are fearful of it. I mean, how have you, for example, gotten Link Senior to be adapted by people or adopted by people who might be afraid to even touch the screen?
Sure. We really have utilized the staff themselves to teach each other. So some of the folks that really do embrace technology, that they take under their wings those other staff members who are not as technologically sound and willing. And I think that COVID was a wonderful godsend because I think that it really forced everyone
yes.
a higher level of technological capacity and capability.
Very good. I'm going to turn the webinar over back to Charles, but because I know our time is so short, there have been a few questions about where can I get this from this speaker? Can I use that from this speaker? You'll see our emails at the end here, but you're welcome to email, I'm sure, any of us with further questions. And we'd be happy to share our ideas about resources, about activities for men, etc. So I'm going to now go back to the screen and thank you all very much. And we'll let Charles wrap us up here. Charles, are you taking the screen back for yourself?
I just did. Thank you so much. I just did. Thank you so much, David. And actually, David and Diane and Melissa, I can't thank you enough. David, your few words saying physicians of the human spirit, I thought kind of wrapped up so well the content of today's presentation. So thank you, David, for helping us moderate this and making it so lively. Thank you for the audience for showing up and your amazing questions. And obviously, as always, Diane and Melissa, thank you for coming up today. Thank you for the work that you do. And thank you to your teams that have shown up every single day of this pandemic to engage our elders. So everyone, I'm showing the emails of our presenters and moderators. I'm sure they'll be happy to receive questions. I know that today we had a jam-packed session, so please feel free to follow up regarding any resources that were shared. I have 2 or 3 exciting announcements that I did want to share with you today. Is that we are kind of rock and rolling our Activity Strong Summit preparation. So June 22nd, for the ones that are not aware, we are holding our event of the year in terms of content, and it's going to be a 6 hours worth of a presentation leading with Voices of Activity and Life Enrichment Directors with Alyssa and Dawn from NAP and NCAP, moderated by Matthew of Activity Connection. And then we have a lot of different amazing presentation, including People Living with Dementia led by Karen Love. We have a CEO-led panel moderated by Josh with Lynn from Juniper Communities and Merrill from Kendall. two doctors who are going to be talking about how we elevate the senior living experience. And then we have Gina Baig from Amazon Alexa, who's going to be talking about the future of resident engagement, including voice-first technology. And then we're wrapping up the educational part with My Life Story is Mine to Write with Angela Byrne, who is a specialist and expert and passionate advocate of helping elders or residents write their own stories. Now, this is the end of the educational series. And right after that is the beginning of the quote unquote fun part, where we are going to have, believe it or not, a happy hour. Now, the happy hour is going to include an amazing competition called Senior Living's Got Talent. And it's going to be the final of that event because Activity Strong, in partnership with Activity Connection, Bridge the Gap, NCAP, NAP, and FaceTrain, is actually challenging all of you for the first of its kind Senior Living's Got Talent competition. And this competition is actually starting on May 24th. The only rule is you need to either live or work in the senior living industry. We're going to have two tracks, one with residents, one without residents, and anyone can provide any type of performances. On June 15th, the audience through our Facebook page is going to be able to cast your vote, and then we're going to select 3 finalists in both with elders and without elders. And these will be voted, and we'll have one winner in each category on the happy hour on our June 22nd summit led by Brian Rice. Now, who's going to judge? We have 3 people, 3 entities who are going to judge. The first one is Alice Attack with NAP. The second one is we are getting residents together from a community here in Washington, D.C. called Forest Hills. So the second vote is going to be cast by residents themselves. And the third one is going to be either the fake, we're trying to get the real Dolly Parton. And so the idea is to have the third judge, either the fake, but we'll do our best and have fun trying to get Dolly Parton to be on our judges' panel. So more details very shortly with you. And then the last thing I wanted to share is, like last year, we are bringing back our super fun virtual bingo game like we did last year. And again, as always, please have fun, please participate, and all of you be activity strong. David, Diane, Melissa, a pleasure to have the 3 of you. Everyone, thank you for showing up, and more importantly, thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, Steve.
Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you, David. Thank you.